Some people say that mass immigration into the United States can help reduce world poverty. Is that true? Well, no, it's not. And let me show you why. This gumball represents the 1 million legal immigrants that the United States has taken every year on average since 1990. Now, who in the world deserves our humanitarian compassion? The World Bank has one measure of the desperately poor of the world. They make less than $2 a day. And how many people make less than $2 a day in the world? Well, let's start with Africa. In Africa alone, there are 650 million people who make less than $2 a day. 650 million. And in India, another 890 million people, desperately poor. China adds another 480 million people, making less than $2 a day. And unfortunately, the rest of Asia has a heartbreaking 810 million people who the World Bank says make less than $2 a day. And finally, there's 105 million of Latin America's population that are desperately poor. All told, the World Bank says there are 3 billion people in the world. 3 billion people who are desperately poor, making less than $2 a day. That's 3,000 gumballs. And every year, we take 1 million and suggest that we've somehow made a humanitarian difference. Of course, we don't pull our immigrants from these desperately poor populations, do we? These people are too poor, too sick, too disconnected to make it here as immigrants. We tend to pull our immigrants out of the better off poor of the world. And Mexico tends to define the type of immigrant that we bring here because the plurality of people come from Mexico. And Mexico is poor. How many people in the world live in countries that have average incomes lower than that of Mexico? And the World Bank tells us that that number is these 3 billion plus another 2.6 billion people. 5.6 billion people in the world who live in countries with average incomes below that of Mexico. That's 5,600 gumballs. And so what is it that the elites are telling us? They're telling us that when we take this 1 million immigrants, that we somehow or another are tackling world poverty. And we have to do it regardless of the effect on our unemployed, the working poor, the most vulnerable members of our society, regardless of the effect on our natural resources. Even if we went by the most radical proposals in Washington, which are to actually double our immigration to 2 million a year, which would totally overwhelm our physical, natural, and social infrastructures, we couldn't make a noticeable difference. And we may be really hurting the impoverished people of the world because the million that we do take are among the most energetic, often the better educated, certainly the most dissatisfied people that if they did not immigrate would be the agents for change to improve the lot of all the people in these countries. The true heroes in the global humanitarian field are the people in these countries who have the wherewithal to immigrate to another country, but instead stay in their countries to apply their skills to help their fellow countrymen. Unfortunately, our immigration system tends to entice these very type of people to abandon their countrymen. The impossibility of making even a dent is actually worse than it looks here. Because last year, when we took 1 million immigrants, these countries added, births over deaths, 80 million more people into the impoverished population. And this year, Congress is bringing in 1 million legal immigrants. And this year, according to the United Nations, these countries are expected to add another 80 million people. And next year, you can be quite sure that Congress, unless stopped by the American voters, will bring in another 1 million immigrants. And these countries, unfortunately, will be adding another 80 million people. into these impoverished nations. We could take 5 million a year, but we'd never get ahead of what's happening in these countries. Not in this century. Don't you see? Immigration can never be an effective or significant way to deal with the suffering people of the world. They have to be helped where they live. 99.9% of them will never be able to immigrate to a rich country. There's no hope for that. They have to bloom where they're planted. The only place that 99.9% of these people can be helped is where they live. Let's help them there.
Here are the numbers you need to understand. Yale University released a study last week by 3 researchers, all of them liberal, I believe, who concluded that the actual number of illegal aliens in this country is not 11 million. It's north of 22 million. 22 million. Fact 1. Fact 2. The Democratic Party is now, as a matter of policy, calling for the legalization of all illegals in this country. Citizenship voting rights. 22 million new voters. Fact 3. The overwhelming majority of first-time immigrant voters vote Democrat. Fact 4. The largest margin in American presidential history was 17 million votes in the 1984 election between Mondale and Reagan. 17 million. You would add to our voter rolls 22 million at least permanent electoral majority in perpetuity. That's what this is about. It's not about making the country better, serving our labor needs, helping the population. It's about putting Democrats in power forever.
It's not like this was an accident, like people make it out to be. Like, oh, well, they're not assimilating now, and there's all these other factors why they're not assimilating, and, well, it's actually because, the program used to be that people came here and they assimilated, but now they don't. It's got nothing to do with that. When you understand that it is illegal for them to stop bringing in the people that will replace the native population, someone had to pass that law. Someone had to write that law. This is years in the making. There's so much architecture, design in place for us to be caught in this catch-22, where you either take the immigrants or you get forced to take the immigrants. There's no. And the inevitable result is that we're all gone. And every day we talk on the show, is that just are we just living in the grandest coincidence of all time, where the people who write the laws and who control the military accidentally seize total power, accidentally cause so much civil unrest and terrorism and on and on and on, so that they can construct a panopticon surveillance state, so they can deploy the military on the streets, so they can erase nation states from the planet? I'd like to think that's a logical case. I think that's a logical case. It's difficult to tell, because when you find these facts and you see what's going on, but you see such a dissonant world where nobody's talking about it, nobody's reporting on it, anybody who tries to talk about it is silenced, it does have sort of a maddening effect, because you see what's happening before your eyes, and television is telling you, close your eyes. That's not happening. If you talk about that, you're a bigot. And it does have a little bit of a maddening effect. It does have a tendency to rattle you a little bit, because we really are living in sort of a 1984 state, where we are being told that we can't trust our own eyes. We can't trust our own thoughts. We can't trust our own families. We can't trust tradition. We can't trust the men. We can't trust the women. We can't, everybody is just unreliable. Watch television. Everybody's unreliable. Read the New York Times. Well, white people are going away. Like our population is decreasing. The black crowd, roaring applause, laughter, cheers, because our people are going away. The people that are coming to replace us in our own country, you think they really like white people? They really care about white people? You think they're really crying a lot because white people are going away? They want to kill us. They don't like us. And the people in media don't like us either. In any case, the people in media, blacks and Hispanics, Jews, they're in a hurry to get rid of us. And once you realize that, hey, we're going to be a minority. Maybe this stuff is harmless now, and we can afford to not care about it now. When we're 40% of the population, and it's your kids and your grandkids, you're not going to have the luxury of not caring what these people think, because they're going to be the ones writing the rules. Well, what's it going to look like for the average white American? I don't mean to fearmonger, but that's the reality. That's the reality. The anti-white rhetoric is out of control in media. Nobody has a problem with it. And in 50 years, that's going to be really problematic for our people. Once you realize they're playing for keeps, they want to kill you, they want to see you dead, raped, all the rest, they want to breed you out of existence, then you care a little bit less about the rules, right? And, you know, do you think the white racial consciousness comes out of nowhere, white people? You know, I look at white conservatives who thinks it's beneath them to talk about race, or to talk about their race, or to try to protect their race. What do you think? Do you think they're not going to come for you? Do you think this is okay? Do you think this is going to change? This is going to get better? It's not. What happens in 2050 when it's maybe 5 white kids and 15 non-white kids, and the textbook says white people killed your ancestors, white people enslaved your ancestors, white people dominated your ancestors in colonies, white people were racist against you, they turned a hose on you, white people elected a leader to deport you? What do you think the sentiment is going to be in that history class in 2050? And white people are 5 out of 25. Do you think it's going to be the same as when it's, oh, now it's a big joke. Now we can afford to say that we have this weird masochistic tendency where, because we're so much better off than everybody else, we want to wreck it because we feel bad. What's it going to be like for our grandkids and our kids?
Wait a minute, double one? Double one, go ahead. Go ahead, man.
Put it on the speaker, put it on the speaker.
There you go. Right here. Here it is, right here. There you go. This is the white man. Get these white women and get these white people a hand, man. Keep on coming. Keep on coming. Keep on coming, Mr. White Man. Keep on going. Keep on going, man. Most High in Christ, man. You understand? Now, they showing what it means to really salute.
The truth is often unpleasant. It is often downright brutal and cruel. The same can be said about the truth regarding the current decline of the white race. While it may seem unnatural, and to some degree it is unnatural, it's being unnaturally accelerated. Overall, our race's current decline is natural. But it serves a very natural and healthy purpose. A purpose that will leave our race healthier, stronger, and more racially aware than it has ever been in all of recorded history. This anti-white era that dominates today is meant to do one thing: awaken all whites who have a healthy and properly functioning racial compass, and purge all of those whites who don't. You have to understand, nature is eugenic by nature. And this anti-white era is serving the greatest eugenic benefit to our people, separating the racially healthy whites from the racially sick and diseased. In the short term, this anti-white era is utter torture. But in the long term, this era will make our race stronger, harder, and more in touch with our racial instincts than it has ever been before. Don't lose hope, guys. Everything happens for a reason, including all of the hell we're going through today. Stay strong, stay positive, and stay focused on the future. Cast your anchor into the future. Set your sails for the future, because that will make up for everything we are going through today.